Hello, this is Michael from Giotto Imaging Supplies coming to you with a customer request video regarding 5-station mug press. This is an 11-ounce mug. One of the questions I'm getting a lot is the amount of tape that people use. I do see people tape the heck out of their mugs for usage in ovens and for element presses. At home, I actually use less than this. I use a very small little strip on each side, just enough to hold the paper secure around the middle here and essentially in position. The actual pressure and tension and assurance that you're going to get your full coverage is going to come from your wrap if you're using an oven, or from your element if you're using an element press. The tape is really just there to secure it in place and make sure it's not moving around, that it's properly centered. It's not shifting as you're bringing it in and out of the press. So you don't need a lot of tape. You don't even need as much as I'm using here. And you can see that I am loose at the top and bottom edges there. That's actually not important and not going to make a difference. So just something that I'm noting and talking to clients about as we continue to go through and I get the chance to help people troubleshoot. The next thing we need to do is we need to take a look at what we're getting in terms of that coverage. Now we take a look at the way I've cut this. You can see I've got a little less than 2 fingers each away from my handle. Now it's possible I won't get, with an element press, I won't get right to that edge. I might not quite get that, but I shouldn't be more than, say, my 2 fingers away from the handle where you would get perfect coverage. Now, depending on what you want, you would either cut your paper a bit shorter so that those 2 fingers is what you're getting exactly and you're getting that clean line, if that's what you're looking for. Or if you're all right with it fading in towards the handle, as with some images that will look good, then you oversize it and then that's what you're going to get. Your border for what you're going to actually get a firm and clean image on comes from the element. Now, you see here that this is a big blue frame, but the frame is not what we're looking at. What we're looking at is the element itself. See where the element is. Now, this pink line, that's where you're expecting to get your heat. And you should be getting heat right to the edges, right? Maybe give it like, less than a millimeter from the edge of that pink line would be where you will be getting full coverage. Here's one of our standard gloss 11-ounce mugs. And if you take a look, you should be getting coverage almost right to the pink as it touches this mug. Now, how do I know that I've got exactly the right pressure? That's a great question. We're going to use this same one as our example, okay? Because I've already got this one set to my standard. I should be able to get it in and out fairly easily. If I'm having issues, don't forget, this is a little loose, so push that right to the end to give you the maximum amount of play, and then set it in. As well, if we look here, if there is a seat here at the bottom, I can, with some twists of my finger here, even while it's hot, I can reach in there and not worry about burning myself. I can raise and lower that, and that's so that it can take both 11 and 15-ounce mugs. If I'm using an 11-ounce, I might want a higher seat. If I look in there, it's pretty nicely in the middle of the element with how I have it currently set for that seat. And then when I'm bringing this in for pressure, it should be, I should start to feel that at about the 90-degree mark. I should start to feel pressure. And it should be fairly easy for me to pull it. I shouldn't be yanking back. I shouldn't be, I've seen people go in like with 2 hands. It should be good and snug, right? Not hard to do. And this should not move inside. That's really an important function, a way of testing, right? So I've got my pressure set, and I'm going to take one of my mugs here, and based on everything I've seen, I should probably get right to there on both sides a decent set. Now, I'm getting up to 365 for 220 seconds. That's been my ideal on element presses, particularly the 5-station, with which is I have an incredible amount of experience. I don't know how many thousands of mugs I've done on a 5-station, but it's quite a few. And it's now set and ready. Now I could put a thin layer of paper, like a parchment paper, just over this to protect my element, make sure that I don't get any ink bleeding through my paper to my element. But in this case, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to do it plain and clean. I get in there making sure my corners don't curl. I center my handle as I'm closing. I close it up. There's our beep. Taking it out. Guys, always take the paper off right away. I know a lot of people, because it's hot, they don't want to get at it. One of the reasons why you don't use that much tape is so you can get to it quick peel, but get it off right away. One of the reasons you do that is that if you don't take this off right away and you leave it attached and you let it cool like that, the ceramic and the paper cool at different speeds. That means that there's going to be a gap between the paper and the substrate as it cools, which means that the ink has now got a chance to run up. And you'll see drifting and what we call ghosting, right? But that's never going to happen if you pull that off right away and let it cool without the paper. Fundamentally important thing, never do that. Okay, so we take a look. We got pretty decently, easily within those 2 fingers I spoke of. It's more like a finger and a half, less maybe. Right to those edges, clean on both sides. Right? It does have a matte finish to it because it's a matte mug rather than a gloss. But otherwise, it's a very nice result. Okay? So, how do I organize my pressure? How do I adjust it if I'm maybe I'm not getting the right pressure? Well, let's talk about that. This one here is not set for an 11-ounce mug right now. Okay? I close this up. I can wiggle my handle. That's no good. It's also quite low set inside there, so I want to make an adjustment for that because I don't like that low seating. If I actually just look at it, I can even sort of see a gap, particularly on this side here, where I'm just not getting the coverage, right? So I have to adjust it. It's a pretty basic wrench, adjustable wrench. And there are some nuts here on the system, on the unit. So I'll just get my wrench adjusted to the size, get it loose. Once it's loose, I'll be able to do it by hand. And I'll start to unscrew that so I now have some play. And then I'll start screwing this tighter and tighter. Right? Now I'll take my mug again, put this down, take my mug again and test it at the new setting. It's better, but it still wiggles. So just screw some more. It's a very basic mechanism. Right? Continue to go until I'm getting closer and closer to the 90 degrees is where I'm hoping to start feeling pressure. Pull it through. No wiggle. That's probably perfect. Maybe I'll give it a couple more turns. Double check. Make sure I can't see any physical gaps where I'm not getting it. Okay. Then I'm going to go down here. I'm going to adjust the seat. Bring the seat up. Like this. So I've been turning this to bring the seat up. That's actually a little higher than I want it, so let's bring it back down a tiny bit. That's almost dead center in the middle there. So now I'll check it again. And it feels actually maybe just a little too loose still, so let's... Okay, I think that's going to be perfect. So now I'm feeling it really like definitely feeling it at the 90 degree. There's tension. Pull. Oh, that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. And I'm getting good coverage. My handle is not touching the blue portions, the frame portions on either side, but they are as close as they can be without that. That's about perfect. All right. So now that I've got that set, I could turn this on, and I think maybe I will. We'll turn that one off. We'll turn this on. We'll give it a moment to heat up. So one of the things I didn't do, actually, I have now got it charged up to heat, but I realized I didn't do, is I didn't re-secure the limiter switch. So let's get to take a look and see how you do that to make sure that that's not something that's a confusion moving forward. So this here is called a limiter switch. Basically, every time that's depressed, the timer will stop. And the device that's used to activate that is this lip here, which needs to be secure. And then this nut goes in and secures that in place after you've adjusted your new pressure. So what I'm going to do now is, just with this, hold the limiter switch and give a quick turn to tighten that nut in place. So now it's good and secure and in place so that my limiter switch is now active and my timer isn't going. Wanted to make sure that we did an example with a gloss mug. One of the things I did notice when I was taking a look at this afterwards, really closely, I did see a little bit of browning on my black. I think, and I'm always learning, of course, I think actually that when you're using the matte mugs, a little less time, actually, probably the same temperature, but just for a little less time for the matte finish, because the matte does absorb a little better. The gloss is actually an inhibitor for the absorption. And so I'm going to just go and do this example with a gloss mug. Same recipe, but I think moving forward when I am doing the mattes, I'm going to drop a few seconds. Probably 20 seconds I would drop. Like I said, my recipe, actually this is a little hotter than my normal recipe. We're 365 for 220. 370, 365, you can go as low as 360. In terms of seconds, you could go as low as 200, again, if you wanted to, and you'd still probably get decent results, but for the perfect results, my experience, 365, 370, 220 seconds. All right, we're there now. Gloss mug, everything's set. One of the things you gotta do is make sure that when you're slipping it in, you don't curl these. That's one of the reasons why people do over tape. But it's really not that big a deal, just to make sure that when you're doing it, it doesn't get caught. Get it set. There we go. Oh, we've got another 200-ish seconds to go. All right, so there's our gloss test. Let's do this for you and me at the same time. I rip from there, boom, like that. Good sharp right to the edge. Good sharp right to the edge. So what do we get? And that's nice, clean, even pressure across the board. I'm happy with my blacks there. Using a 5-station mug press does require that you get your settings set right in the beginning, okay? You gotta get that pressure right across the board. I've got it particularly complicated because I've got several different types of elements in here, but the ones that you're going to get when you buy one are going to be these ones here, the same that I just used for that second gloss test, or this one, which you'll only get if you specifically request for 11 ounce only, because these are a bit thicker and won't take the 15. That's how you do it. You take your time, you get your pressure right, you get it set right. Obviously, there's a possibility that you'll get a waster or two in the settings. That's part of adding a new piece of equipment to your lineup. You're going to have to get it right. You're going to have to take the time to get your pressures and everything set. But once you get it dialed in, don't mess with it, because it'll just keep doing the same thing beautifully over and over again. Thank you for your time. If there are additional questions, I'm always happy to help. To everybody else who just decided to tag along, if you made it this far, thank you for making it this far. I'm Michael with Giotto Imaging Supplies. If you liked the video, please like the video. If you really liked it, subscribe. Tell all your friends. Come back and see us again here at Giotto. Until then, happy sublimating.